and welcome to Free Speech with CR. I'm your host, Molly Blakemore, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Keith Flamer.
Hello, Molly, and with us today is the extraordinarily wonderful writer and staff member, Jennifer Bailey. And as a little bit of introduction, Jennifer has been with CR for how long, Jennifer? 18?
Well, if we're being real, 25 years.
You've been here for
Yeah.
25 years, so you must have started when you were 2.
Exactly.
Okay, and also we really want to talk to Jennifer, not just about her career at CR, but also about the work that she's done since she left CR the first time and now you're back. So I have been so looking forward to our conversation today because you are amazingly interesting. So talk to us a little bit about how you started at CR and at what point and the things that you see here.
Oh, okay. Well, I started actually at CR when I was 19 years old. I really didn't think I was college material. It was the basketball coach that called me from Fort. I was at Fortuna High, and she called me and she said, Jen, I really want you to come play basketball for me. And I said, oh.
So you started as a student?
I did. I started as a student. Yeah. I was enrolled in English 350 and Math 376. And I said, "Oh, Marla, I'm not smart enough. I can't do the college thing." And she said, "Just come and just tour the campus, visit with the team." And so I did that, and I ended up enrolling into classes. And actually, I had to work while I was in college, and I went into the admissions office and said, I love to file, and they gave me a job.
Wait, you like the but you don't often hear someone aspiring to be a fighter,
Yeah.
but okay.
I knew I had to start with the ground up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I just started there in admissions, doing filing and answering phones.
So that's how you started here, and then you were a counseling assistant.
Yeah, and then actually I worked part-time in the public relations department and part-time in the admissions department because I needed the medical benefits. And then I went into counseling as an advisor, and went into leadership, and then articulation.
That's when I first met you when you were a counseling assistant. You was there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in between there, you also went and finished your degree at Cal Poly Humboldt.
Yeah. Actually, I got 3 degrees here at CR, and went on and got my bachelor's degree in journalism with an emphasis in English. And then Alan Kepner said, you need to go back to school. Keith told me, you need to go back to school and get a master's. And I'm like, oh, I'm not smart enough. I can't do it, And then there I was applying to graduate school and got my master's degree in education with an emphasis in academic advising. So
I have to tell you that when people talk to me about a success story of a student at CR, I tell people your story. Why? It's because you started at pre-collegiate courses and you finally got a master's degree and you are a celebrated local author. Talk to us about how you got into books, writing books. How many have you read? And I've read 2 so far. And I really want to talk to you about why you did that.
that's a really good question. I didn't plan on, my grandmother told me I had to go to college and get my degrees. But from a young age, I love to read and I love to write. And I actually didn't learn to read until I was in 4th grade. And once I did, I just took off. I read everything I could get my hands on. And I wrote these stories in my closet, just story after story after story. And then I got into high school and I felt like I couldn't do that anymore. I just,
Why is that?
I think because as a young, 15-year-old girl, I just wanted to fit the mold. I just wanted to fit in.
And can I ask why you were a closet writer?
That's a great question.
And what brought you out of the closet, rather?
You're right. It's a very vulnerable thing, writing. And I was scared if somebody saw it, they might say to me, oh my gosh, why are you writing? And so that's why I wrote in the closet. And, so, I went through high school and I still love to read. I read. And it wasn't until actually my son was born, he's almost 15 now. Um, I was I decided to take Dave Holper's creative writing class.
Mm.
And I'd started this story called Black Five, and I needed help with the middle of it. It was really sagging, and so I took his creative writing course and I finished it on independent study. And he said, "You need to get an editor for this." And so then I did.
And that was Dave Holper who taught you.
That yes, yes,
Doing that.
yes. See, I absolutely love that man. He really was a great teacher, but a great encourager, again.
Most certainly was.
Yeah, writing is a very vulnerable thing, and he actually had me come back every semester. He taught English 33, the creative writing, so I could speak to the students, which is really cool.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, and then so after Black 5, I went on to write, I think 12 more books.
Did you find an editor for Black
I
5?
did. Joelle Frazier, actually, she was incredible. I hired her to edit my book, and then I pitched it to so many different publishing houses and so many different agents, and I got, I don't know, a lot of no's before I got that one yes.
Common story, I
Yep,
think.
yep, and then that was it, and
So what's the topic of Black Five?
it's a paranormal romance, and it's based in Ferndale, California, and it's about, Penelope, who doesn't really know what's really going on. She was raised by her Aunt Jo. She knows she's got some special abilities, but she doesn't tell anybody, until she finds out that she's approaching a birthday, a very important birthday, and, she figures out she has a security detail that's been following her entire life to protect her from this underworld. So, um, yes, and it's
Okay,
yeah,
so
go ahead.
so talking about that, and I have read a few of your other ones.
Mhm.
The ideas for your book. I've been told that the ideas for books comes from personal experiences or thoughts that you've carried. So where did Black Five come from, and the topics of your other books that I believe touch upon? Um,
Like standing sideways.
yeah.
Yeah.
So where does that originate?
Actually, Black 5 came from pieces of my childhood. So it didn't start with the premise, um, of what it came out to be. What it started, this is the memory that it started with, and this is a memory from my childhood. We were living on Bunny Street in Santa Maria, California. It was just my mother and I, and we were in the low income housing. And I must have been like 2 or 3 years old, and I remembered the maggots coming out of our carpet. And I remembered what that felt like. Just I didn't know that you this is odd to say, I didn't know what they were. I mean, I was just so little. Um, and and I thought, "Wow, there's this little girl that has these memories." And so I took that memory, and I said, "Well, what if that wasn't the story? What if there was a bigger story around it? What if she really had this life that she really wanted? What does that look like?" And so, it really started with memories from my childhood that I built a premise around and a
Very
plot. Yeah.
Wow.
And actually, I was, contracted for 4 books. It was called the Black Blood Chronicles.
Black Connor. Take it.
Yeah, that's the Black 5 series. And the day I wrote the end to the next book in the series, my cousin Jason was killed in the Umpqua Community College
I
shooting.
remember that. If any reaction to you,
Yeah,
that's traumatic.
that was very awful. Yeah. And so I didn't go on. I couldn't move forward with the next book, Crimson Lace. I couldn't. And so I knew, the way I process things is I write through them. And I remember I wanted to write about the way I was feeling and in hopes that it would help someone else that went through something like that. And so I'm sitting like at 4 a.m. in the morning and I'm just bawling into my computer. And my husband comes out and he says, "Honey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself?" And my answer was, "I just want to help somebody else." And through that process of writing Standing Sideways, which, and I don't say this out of pride or ego, I say this because this wasn't a book I intended to write. It wasn't a book I wanted to write. It was a book I had to write. Um, that book has been on the #1 bestseller list on Amazon. It's been published in multiple languages. And again, it wasn't a book I wanted to write. And to date, Standing Sideways, all of the proceeds for that book go towards the scholarship at the college that my colleagues set up for Jason.
Yeah.
Here or
Yeah, here. They asked me, yes, if they could do that.
I mean, would you mind telling our viewers what's the premise of that book? What is that book all about?
Oh my gosh. So it's about Livia Stone. She actually, the book is based in Fortuna, California, and it's about a young woman who's lost her twin brother. And he was her person. He was her go-between between her family, the world. Um, Jasper was his name. And she has to learn to navigate life without him and what that looks like. So there's, topics about addiction and God and anchor and all the stages of grief and what we do in our grief and not only what that grief feels like, but what it can look like through the lens of other people, you know? Everyone grieves differently. And so and addiction obviously is a big part of the book too.
Why is that a big part of the book?
It's a big part of my story as well. Yeah. I've been in recovery from alcoholism for, gosh, 5,900 days. So just over 16 years, roughly.
Rapture. That was phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, writing helped that piece of me, through the grief. I didn't have to put anything in my body to affect my mind. Writing was writing through it, you know?
No, and what a lot of people are not aware of, JB, about you is you try your best to help other people in recovery from addiction as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that if you're comfortable.
Oh, absolutely. I think addiction, whether it's, drug addiction or alcoholism, can be very lonely and nobody talks about it. If we have a family member struggling, I remember I grew up with a drug addict and an alcoholic, so I know I never wanted to have friends over. I was so
Is
embarrassed.
this your mother?
Yes. Yeah. And she's been clean for quite some time now.
Good for her. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's it's such a stigmatized disease, and what I like to do in my recovery is I like to take the power out of that loneliness. And if I can't keep the gift of recovery if I'm not giving it away. And so I'm part of a 12-step program that that helps me on a daily basis and allows me to help other people. I've always been very transparent about my recovery, whether it's with my administration, whether it's with students that I see and work with, whether it's with my colleagues, um, because it's not talked about. Nobody talks about it,
That's true.
on the recovery level.
Mm-hmm.
I wish more people did.
And it seems like that part of your story, along with the educational part of your story, how you didn't feel smart enough for college and how people encouraged you, that could work really well with your positions here as an advisor and a counselor, because you can relate to a lot of our students that probably feel that way.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's true. It's not true, obviously, but yeah, so that probably made you a lot more empathetic to our students.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'll never forget, I've always, like, since I was in my old office in the Forum Building or old admin. Yeah. I just got this thought, like, you really need to start a recovery program on campus or recovery meeting. And I would just, oh, I'm so busy. I have, I don't have time. And I had time to drink, I have time to recover. And so it wasn't until I came back after COVID, I was sitting in the cubicles out in the counseling office, and I heard a young man come in and say, um, I just got out of I just got out of a halfway living. He just got out of rehab, and he was living in like a recovery home. And he goes, I'm a student here, and I need a meeting. Do you have a meeting on campus? And at that point, we didn't. And
I remember that
I
time.
remember that, yeah. And
And now we do.
and now we do, and now we do Thursdays at noon. If anyone's in the Forum Building, yeah.
In the Forum Building.
Yes.
So far until
Until we make the move.
until we make them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of your books were based in Fortuna, but then a lot of your other books are also in small towns.
Yes.
And is that intent? Obviously, it's intentional, but is Humboldt always kind of the inspiration for those towns? And you grew up here,
Yeah,
though, right?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it absolutely. I love being from a small town. I mean, my husband's hairdresser is also the mayor of Fortuna, which he was.
Your husband has a hairdresser.
Well, the person who cuts his hair.
A barber?
You wouldn't know.
I would not know. It's like this is a private hairdresser. That's interesting. I can't wait to see him again.
She's officially retired. However, she does keep some of her clients, and she's an incredible woman, and feeling so connected to my hometown. I mean, there's so much story there, and I can pick up a conversation. Talk about inspiration. I can pick up a conversation just from one line at a coffee shop, and it's like, oh, you want that on your coffee? And I can just build a whole story around it. Yeah.
So is that how you got the story from about the Ferndale Enterprise stories?
Oh,
And I just every time I read it, I would just giggle in my office. It is so wonderfully written. And
oh,
So tell us what those are.
oh gosh. Those started actually during COVID. I was just looking, for some part-time work, and it was when the North Coast Journal bought the Enterprise. Melissa said, "Hey," I said, well, I pitched the fiction idea because I was like, I don't know about nonfiction, and she goes, well, write a fiction series, and I'm like, really? Could I do that? And she said, absolutely.
it is so good.
Yeah. So that's really where it all started, and
So now you've had two. Tell us about those series.
oh, my 2 book series. But
No, haven't you had two Ferndale series?
oh my gosh, I have, I think, let's see, 11.
That many?
Yeah, 11 different series that I've written for the Enterprise. Yeah. Since COVID.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's tons. Oh
Oh,
god.
I only know the most recent two, so I have to go back up to the
There you go. Yeah, but yeah, since COVID, so whenever that was, 4, 6 years.
good reason to get the furry.
Yeah, but also I want to say and Molly and I have often talked about this, how lucky and grateful that we have you back on staff to write our newsletters. There's just so magical, and the work that you've done has just drawn us so much closer to our community. So and I get compliments about you everywhere I go. So
Yeah.
thank you for it. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So yeah, talk a little bit about how now you're kind of melding both of your loves for CR and student
like it.
and writing.
Yeah, for talk to us about
Yeah. So now what do you do?
Yes, so I get to tell so I get to write most all the feature stories that come out of College of the Redwoods, the press releases. I get to put out the athletics newsletter and the general newsletter, and I get to talk with students and I get to hear their stories and what they've overcome to just get through the doors, just to the doors of College of the Redwoods. They're not even through their classes yet. And these phenomenal humans that we have that are on campus as students, as faculty, as staff, as our administration. Um, and I get to see that deeper side of them. And I don't know if it's because I don't know, people say I'm very approachable and I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Gonna make me sweat.
It's okay. So it's all right. Keep
Cold
going.
in here, so
5 minutes.
people say you're approachable.
Yeah, and so I get that deeper side of people, and I get to write about it. I get to tell these stories.
You bring what is invisible visible.
Mm.
So I appreciate that. And in a little bit of time we have left,
Yeah.
I want to transition a little bit to the other business that you have, which I quite frankly didn't know until my son died.
Yeah.
And you approached me and you said, I want to talk to you about something, but you're afraid to talk to me. And I said, this can be a good beginning to a conversation. And so talk to us a little bit about the other work you do to help people heal.
The other work that you do in the closet. Yes.
I'm really stepping out.
Yes, you're stepping out. Because this work is just as important as any other work. And I have learned that about you. So talk to us a little bit about that.
As a young, as a child, I used to hear things and see things and that nobody else could see. And I wrote it off as my imagination. Some things scared me, some things didn't. And so I remember just getting under my covers at night especially and just hiding under the covers and saying, okay, God, help me. you know um and again, it didn't really scare me. It didn't really sometimes it did. But I was very confused as a child, just about, what a reality versus non-reality. And so I just told myself it was my imagination. And so as I got older, um, like I remember this gentleman that used to play cards with me under the table. He was an elderly gentleman. His name was Rainey. And my mom said, honey, that never happened. But I specifically remember playing, and he was such a nice man. And he said, tell my wife I love her. And I didn't know what that meant. I was little. And so as I got older and I turned 19, these visions I was seeing started to come back. And I got really scared because they dissipated for a long time. And I think kids, when they grow up in trauma, they they have to survive, and so that's what I did. And so I just forced all of this out.
Tamping a lot of
Yep.
things down. And yeah.
And so I they started to come back and I started to drink, and then I started to drink alcoholically. And it wasn't until and that stopped. It
course.
stopped, the visitors I was getting. It stopped all of that. And it wasn't until I got into recovery, and there was so many things in my life that brought me to this moment, that attributed to the mediumship and the writer in me. And so I told, in my addiction though, I told this counselor, I said, I don't, I'm seeing this. Like, this person is, I'll go in the grocery store and there's a woman in front of me and I will hear a voice that says, tell her I'm sorry. I was her third husband and I didn't treat her well. Will you tell her I'm sorry? And I am like, uh, so those things started to happen again. And that's what scared me. And so,
Counselor in recovery said what?
well, it was just a counselor. She just prescribed me medication, and I knew that wasn't the problem.
the answer.
It wasn't the answer, and so I got sober, um, and it was, and now I see, I through a succession of events that led me to this moment, I started working with Patty Davis in Arcata. She's incredible. And she said to me, Jen, you're a powerful, like a medium, right? And I'm like, well, are you sure? Like, but everything started to make sense. I mean, everything. And that fear went away. And I learned to set boundaries with spirit. Like, you can't come to me when I'm at work. I have to work, unless it's something. So for example, with Keith, can I share this story? Do you mind?
I don't mind at all.
Oh.
But I was going to bring it up. Well, it's because I want you to share the story. I don't know how much time we have left,
Yeah.
but the things that you told me helped me through my own grief. Not just with my son, but my mother. So please go ahead and tell the story if we have time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was working one day and it was in my cubicle down in counseling, and I see Brendan in my mind's eye, and I hear, you need to talk to my dad. And I'm like, Brendan, there is no way that I am going to march up to the president's office and tell him what I do. He goes, you have to. You have to. And it took me probably about 2 months. And I had gone on a trip to North Carolina with colleagues, and I ended up telling a good friend of mine who traveled with us, Angela. It just came about, and she said, "You're a medium?" And I said, "Hey, yeah, yeah, I'm a medium." And so anyway, so that happened, and the situation with Brendan had happened, and I had told Angela that, like, I don't know how to, I don't want to march up to Keith's office, and that's scary. And
Yes,
so
I love those scary pussy.
no, and she goes, okay. And so one day I'm sitting, I think I'm in jury duty. I don't remember. I was in a meeting or something. And she texts me and says, hey, I told Keith. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so then I emailed him and I said, well, what did he say? And she goes, he's ready. And I went, okay, all right. So then I sent him an email and
Which I thought was very strange, but okay.
I know. And then we met, and that's really, I was okay with working with those lives who had crossed over, but when Patty challenged me to start working with people who are living, I was like, Patty, no way. Like, I'm okay working with people who are on this side. But when you tell me to give a message to somebody, it was just, so that's the other piece of it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we have to wrap, unfortunately. But where can people find you if they want to look at your books and or your mediumship?
Yeah. So JaylinBaileyBooks.com is my website for the book side. And I do write about the dead people as well. And then
Good people. Like I see good people. I resisted. I shit away, but anyway, go on.
that too.
Okay.
And then also I have an Instagram page, Medium in the Redwoods. So they can find me there.
Thank you. I so look forward to this conversation, Jade.
Oh, thank you so much both for having.
Oh, yes. Thank everyone for watching and tuning in.
Yeah.
Thank you all.